So KPMG did a survey that they released today, and it's interesting for data scientists, machine learning practitioners to get a little bit of the view that they're going to provide, which is a view into the C-suite, what your CEO, your senior leadership are thinking about when it comes to data science, machine learning, the state of any of those technologies in their organization. How useful is it? How valuable is it? What do they think? As a strategy consultant, I get a little bit of the insider's view on this, but studies and surveys like what KPMG did, they called it Thriving in an AI World, they give us a wider view into a whole lot more industries and a whole lot more executive offices. They actually surveyed, look like 7 industries and 950 decision makers. So these are the results. I'm going to walk you through some of the insights, some of the important things for you to know as a data scientist to understand, like I said, a little bit of the mindset of the people that sign the checks and who have to be the end users, the adopters, the people who are supposed to be benefiting from all of this new technology and all of this AI. What's going through their heads? This is going to help you be a better business partner. Just understanding some of the undercurrents of what's going on outside of the data science and the machine learning silos. Let me dive right in. One of the things they covered is talking about the perception of AI. What do people think of AI outside of data scientists and machine learning practitioners? Well, retail is kind of the first thing that caught my attention. Is they found out that the retail sector actually has, as a whole, a higher perceived value for AI-based products and projects than even tech, which is kind of crazy. But that speaks to how much some industries like retail believe that if they don't adopt AI-based technologies, they're going to die. That's what's going through a whole lot of senior leaders in that retail space's heads. They're afraid of losing ground because someone else has adopted a technology that gives them a competitive advantage over all the other companies in the marketplace. That's a real fear, and I'm going to talk about that more later on. But there are industries and sectors which are so concerned with falling behind that even more than tech, they value AI and AI-based implementations. So if you're looking for a job, retail is probably a good bet, good place to go into. Now, across industries, businesses are all seeing, according to the KPMG study, more value from their machine learning projects, which is kind of, when you think about last year, really last 3 years, the hype has been getting beaten up. And CEOs as recently as 2020 were saying that we're just not seeing the value. We're not seeing the ROI. So what's really interesting about this survey is just the overwhelming response and perception of value in the returns on data science and machine learning projects. So that the companies turned a page, which is interesting. Across the board, it seems like businesses have figured it out. They've started focusing on value, started focusing on getting these models into production and building value for the business. That's a huge shift. The pandemic, it seems like, has just accelerated a whole lot of these trends that looked like they were going to take a little bit more time to adopt and really become mature with machine learning technologies. Looks like over the last year, companies have invested heavily and put a lot of work into not only adopting AI, but getting the value out of data science and machine learning projects. So that's really driving a lot of the value focus that you may be seeing if you're looking at what companies are requiring of data scientists or what the focus of the day-to-day role is for a data scientist. It's far more value focused and production focused than it used to be in years past. So businesses are starting to turn around. Like I said, 2-3 years ago, they did not think they were getting the types of returns that they expected. Now they are. So that indicates they've turned around a whole lot of their failed initiatives, which, well, that's great for business. And obviously for you, if you're going into the field or if you're swapping businesses at this point, having a value focus, having a focus on results and ROI is going to be critical to your career because more and more businesses are getting the kind of value and they're going to continue to invest and continue to ramp up investments because they're seeing the dollars in return. So they've hired leaders, and this is something that I've seen personally, is businesses have hired leaders to come in, take over the data and analytics organization and fix it, sort of clean it up. I've been brought in to do a couple of these where I come in, I ramp up the team, and I sort of cycle out some of the people who weren't able to produce value for the business and bring in people who are more focused on things like being able to work with other teams outside of the data science organization, being able to gather requirements and understand business needs, and then connect those business needs to potential projects and can even pitch. Hey, I have a great idea for a project. Here's what kind of revenue or cost savings I think you can look at getting from this. What do you think? And they're persuasive and able to go into other teams, build consensus, get everybody on board and bought in, and then build the project. That's different, isn't it? It's a different focus. And so not only is the focus on technical capabilities, it's also more of a focus on working with other teams and producing value. It's that business acumen. Used to be a small business acumen, but now it's a very important piece of the data science skill set is to have that business acumen. So something else that was interesting that they found is that people on the ground floor, management, manager, director level, don't have as rosy a perception as the C-suite does. So people at the ground floor, about half of them said that the AI was returning great value, expected or way past expected, whereas 78% of senior leadership C-suite, why? Why would one side see it and the other side isn't? Well, you could think maybe it's hype. Maybe the CEOs are getting snowed and they don't really know what's going on at the ground floor. But no, in reality, they're seeing the dollars come in. They actually see the hits to or the improvements in revenue and the hits to costs, bringing costs down in the efficiency projects. So they're far more aware of the monetary impacts, whereas people at the ground floor don't necessarily get to see exactly how impactful from just a cash standpoint a lot of AI projects can be. So for them, they're looking at it and they're going, okay, I'm not impressed. But half of them are. So there's a gap there. They're looking at the manager level and the director level. They're looking at projects. They're not impressed. What does that mean? Buy-in at that level, at the manager and director level, is going to be harder to come by in most companies because you're fighting that 50%. Well, half of people are probably going to be bought in and say, hey, yeah, I've seen some great stuff. The other 50% that you're talking to and trying to get buy-in at that lower level are going to be more hesitant because they just haven't seen it. You're going to have more success in those cases going to another level above them, maybe to the senior VP, executive VP, or even C-suite level, and pitching your projects to people that have actually seen the revenue and who have a higher level of confidence that the projects are going to deliver what you're promising they'll actually deliver. What's also interesting to look at is, I said the C-suite might be getting hyped. No, actually, the reverse is true. The C-suite, according to the survey, is becoming increasingly hype adverse. They are extraordinarily cautious when it comes to hearing people who say, this is going to do amazing things, AI, everything. So that hype, they're done with it. That piece of hype, I guess, that was out there 5 years ago, they implemented, they spent 2 or 3 years not seeing the kinds of returns that they're expecting. Now they are seeing returns. But just because they're seeing a ton of money now doesn't mean that they're going to go back and immediately say, I'm falling for the hype. They're not. They've been through some battles. They've seen a couple of losses. They've seen projects that didn't return the way that they were expected to. They're realizing this is a long game. A lot of these projects are incremental. And so the increases early on and the gains in revenue cost savings early on are smaller, but long term, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're seeing that. So when somebody comes to them with an extraordinary promise, they're not listening. When it comes to pitching the C-suite, this means you have to be careful. You have to keep expectations realistic, keep your promises and your message on point. Don't go, but we might. No, just keep your projections level. Look at that middle case. Don't look at that crazy hype case, because that may, in some cases, you think that's selling. No, it may be raising red flags in people that you're talking with who may look at it and say, okay, yeah, I've heard that before. I've heard about projects like this and they didn't work out. That's what we did 2-3 years ago. It didn't work. We're in a better place strategically. We're being smarter. And so that's their mindset. You have to go in pragmatically and present numbers that you can support, rather than saying, well, you know what might happen. That doesn't play anymore because C-suite is hype adverse. Now, what are the core challenges that companies are seeing? Access to talent. It's still out there. You'll hear recruiters say, "Oh, yeah, I have no problem recruiting." That's trash. I mean, from my personal experience, companies bring me in just so that they can staff up teams just because I have the ability, I got a good pipeline of talent, I got a good network. I can bring in people fairly quickly. But companies are struggling to get and retain, and the survey said both pieces of this, to attract and then to retain top talent. So that's a struggle that companies are facing, and it slows down your adoption. Obviously, if you don't have the kind of talent you need to build data science and machine learning projects or to put the infrastructure in place to support those projects in production, your rollouts are going to be slowed down. So access to talent is a huge problem that companies are facing. They're also having trouble with this buy build. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but when you have a business problem, you can either buy a technical solution, just buy something off the shelf from a vendor, or you can build it internally. Companies are having a difficult time with that decision. And I see that a lot, and the survey actually reflected that as well. They're having trouble evaluating platforms to figure out which ones will actually fit their business need. So you as a data scientist have an opportunity here. You're not only valuable in your capability of looking at projects and products that you can build, the build side of that, but you can also be a strategic partner by helping the buy side to say, look, this is probably something that we could more cheaply or more efficiently buy from someone else. And here are the evaluation criteria. I've done this for multiple companies where you give them some evaluation criteria for any particular solution, and you help them make the connection between here's the technologies that they're going to be talking about, and here's how they connect to your individual use cases and business needs. And so here's some specifics for functionality, and you can actually help other teams to sort of define their needs and give better requirements so senior decision makers can make the right decision about which products and platforms to buy. You can be an excellent partner, not just doing data science, but sometimes bringing your technical acumen to bear to help them solve other problems, like figuring out what software solutions should they buy that will actually meet their business needs. So that is something that's excellent. If you can do that in your current role, huge, huge value add to your company. So platforms and transformation are complex. We told you about the buy decision, but for most companies, just trying to figure out what to do once you've bought the platform is that's sometimes the hardest thing. They've made the decision. They finally picked one. Okay, now what do we use it for? How do we implement it? How do we put it together in such a way that it actually does all the things that it claims to do? Those integrations and rollouts are painful. And that's one of the things that's slowing companies down when it comes to adopting AI, because a lot of the capabilities, a lot of your day-to-day work is going to depend on you either using these platforms to facilitate your workflow or maybe getting data from these platforms. You may be integrating the models you deploy into production, maybe integrating with some of these platforms, or they may live on them. You might be deploying to these platforms. And in every one of these cases, you can be a good partner by helping with the integration efforts. If you can define exactly what the data science and machine learning team needs in order to do their job, that's huge. And if you can help build out that integration, again, you're adding a lot of value to the business, and you will be speeding up the pace of the next projects that you get to work on because, well, you're basically log jammed. You are stuck in a traffic jam behind this platform's implementation for some of your projects. So the more you help out, the faster it gets rolled out, the faster you can get back to work doing those projects that you're supposed to be delivering on time. Data quality is something businesses are extraordinarily aware of now, so they're pushing forward through data quality initiatives. However, you've been through this. You know all of the challenges when it comes to the amount of data that's out there, trying to find it, trying to catalog it, improving the quality of it generally just by cleaning it and doing the data wrangling that you need to make data high enough quality to make decisions based on, to use in dashboards or in apps for you to actually ingest into your model without your model doing some horrible and unpredictable things. So data quality is a challenge, and it's a challenge throughout the organization. Your team may have a data quality initiative, However, according to this study or this survey, a lot of other teams do too, and they're struggling with them. And if those data sets are inputs into your model, those issues are going to cascade down to you. So it's a good thing for you to be aware of. Internal data literacy and adoption is a huge roadblock. Again, back to access to talent. It's very hard for companies to hire data literate employees into all the roles now that need high levels of data literacy. So companies are struggling with that from a hiring and bringing in internal talent. They're also having trouble training people and upskilling them to be data literate and to adopt all of the products that you're probably pushing out the door, along with all the ones they're buying. And so this is a rapid phase of adoption. Trying to upskill the current workforce is one of the hurdles. Trying to get everybody ready to use the projects and the products that you're producing, it's a challenge. So when you're building, think about your target audience and always consider, is there going to be some sort of training, education, continual learning, or organizational development initiative that's going to be required for your project to be successful? It might be one of the dependencies of adoption or of rolling out on time. So think about that. When you look at other teams, KPMG's study is a good way to sort of gauge what they're really thinking. And some of the obstacles that don't get advertised very frequently. And that's one of them. Data literacy. If your user doesn't understand how to use a dashboard, if they don't really know how to make a decision based on data, or they don't know how to work with an intelligent automation system, adoption is going to be painful. So sometimes it's those unseen pieces of the rollout, which you may be the only one who's capable of managing. So it's good to know what's in your end users and your stakeholders' heads. One thing that's really interesting from the study is that companies think that the pace of adoption, the pace of AI adoption, is now moving too fast. A couple of years ago, everyone said it was moving too slow. Then the pandemic hit. And like I said, really early on in this, it accelerated adoption so much. All of the things that we were expecting might take, 3 to 5 years, took between 9 and 18 months. It is incredible. In my opinion, from what I've seen, and it sounds like from the survey, it's incredible how fast companies have just gotten on board, going from digital transformation as kind of this amorphous thing to data science and machine learning initiatives that are in their products, in their customer-facing products, and also internally driving initiatives that were originally robotic process automation, and now these are efficiency projects that are using intelligent automation or intelligent process automation, and this is all data science and machine learning based. The functionality in a lot of these process automation pieces are built on top of the machine learning models you build. So the core functionality is now out there in production. They're getting value from it. And so there's a little bit of a backlash. And according to the study, they said a lot of people are talking, especially at the C-suite level, about how fast this is going and how it feels. And I'm guessing they probably feel like it's just a little bit out of control, like it has gone faster than they expected it to. They may not have the kind of visibility that they want into the projects. Where are they? What's going on? And that may be something that you're a part of. You may want to spend more time with senior leadership to get them comfortable with the pace of adoption within the business. Now, there's a flip side to this. The other side of that, it's moving too fast, is something it's been out there for the last 5 years consistently, is the fear in executives and senior executives' mind that other companies are leapfrogging them. Other companies are getting miles and miles ahead, and if they don't move faster, they will be at a significant disadvantage. Everybody's seen, the stories of Kmart and Sears and some of the retailers that went out of business, and these stories of companies that could not keep up, that did not adopt digital or e-com or one of those fast enough, and just their business evaporated overnight. Those stories are everywhere. And CEOs have been listening to those stories now for 5-6 years. They are scared that that's going to happen to them. So on the one hand, You've got a lot of CEOs who are saying, this feels like it's moving too fast. And that's probably because they just don't have enough of a handle on it. You can help. You can provide more visibility into the projects that you're putting together. What are you building? Why are you building it? What are the benefits of it? Is the rest of the business ready? Kind of back to some of the things that we were talking about with the challenges. Is the rest of the business ready to adopt this, or is it just going to drop and thud? And you see, you can answer some of these questions and be more valuable to the business by just understanding that in your CEO's head, it's moving too fast, but at the same time, it's probably not moving fast enough because competitors, that's what's going on. That is what's keeping some of them up at night. Your CTO, that's in your CTO's head right now. So you can be a part of helping your CTO or CEO or chief data scientist get some sleep at night. And that'll make you a little bit more value to the business, and adoption will be more consistent, because if your CEO gets scared, they might pull back investment a little bit. If they feel more comfortable with the pace of deployment, rollout, adoption, revenues coming in, the cost savings are meeting targets, they're going to be more likely to just consistently increase budget and allow you to do more complex projects that return more value to the business. So spend some time making everyone feel better about the pace of rollout and adoption and implementation, because it'll be good for you too. Companies who are slow to adopt feel like the industry is moving too fast. And that's back to that point that I was making, back to, it's moving too fast. And so laggards, you may be in a laggard business model, a company that isn't technology first, that really doesn't have technology as a core concept, let alone data science, or a core competency, let alone data science as a core competency. You may be one of 5 data scientists in a very large company that doesn't have a great focus on technology. And those are the companies who think things are moving too fast in the industry because they're not able to keep up. And very soon, you may have someone very senior at the senior VP, executive VP, or even the C-suite level coming to you and asking you, how do we move this forward faster? So be ready for that question. Be ready to maybe in the next 3 to 6 months become a very critical link in what used to be digital transformation, but is now a more significant concerted effort that's centered around AI, data science, machine learning, and the models that you're building. Well, they might become a critical piece of your business model and your business strategy. So be ready for that. Be ready for a rapid ramp up if you're in one of those laggard companies. So privacy and bias. The survey brought up privacy and bias. They said a lot of companies are very concerned with it. I'll be honest, I hear that a lot. But I'm also going to be honest, I don't see a whole lot of people doing anything about it. On the one hand, most companies don't know what to do about privacy issues and bias. They're concerned about information security. They're definitely doing some more traditional secure software development. They're securing data better. They're more cautious and more intentional when it comes to information security. They may even be hiring a larger information security team. But when it comes to AI, they don't understand how AI and information security, they don't get it. They don't understand the risks associated with AI. AI gets lumped in with a whole bunch of other technologies. And so when they say they're scared about AI, what are they really scared about? Well, they're more scared about just technology, software development, infrastructure, all of that. They kind of ball it up and now they're calling it AI. And so not 100% true, not 100% your fault, but think about data privacy, think about bias, have policies in place, look at building a more, structured access to data, protect sensitive data, at least identify your sensitive data, and think about protecting it with access, just basic access management policies, and have it written up, have it documented. You're probably going to get asked this very soon, maybe in the next year if you haven't already put these in place. But have them ready, have them documented, be ready for AI to get lumped in with information security, data privacy, bias, and ethics, and all of that. Get to know those issues. Those are coming your way because your CEO is worried about it. Focus. Everyone says AI strategy, but as I read the KPMG survey, They said strategy and then immediately started talking about tactics. And okay, this is common. AI is complex as a technology. Strategy is just complex. When you try to build a strategy around something the business doesn't really have yet as a core competency, that causes issues. And so when companies say AI strategy, what they really mean is they have a list of tactics that they've come up with, and those tactics are adopt cloud, hire talent, create a data-driven culture, and then they'll have some, like a business case here and a use case there, and that's strategy. But that's not really strategy. You will increasingly be asked to help define some aspects of data science and machine learning, the AI strategy. It's going to be tough for you because you're a tactician. You're focused on building, creating, doing, and there are going to be strategic asks. People at a very high level will be coming to the team and trying to figure out how they're going to turn what's working right now into a comprehensive strategy that can be integrated in with the rest of the business strategy. Planning can be more certain. You can expect different types of returns from different types of initiatives. So obviously the company wants to be doing the most valuable, most profitable initiatives. And that means that a lot of the activities and the products have to be connected back to the strategy planning process. Companies don't understand how to do this, especially because most CTOs or chief data scientists or CIOs, the top of the food chain in the organization that you probably work in, they are tactical. They're strategists in name alone. They're chiefs in name alone, I say often. They're not strategic. They speak just immediately speaking to tactics. So get ready for strategy to become a hot buzzword. And companies are going to have to figure this out. You're going to be a part of this, and the figuring it out process is going to impact you and your job because there's going to be this churn while the company takes an organization which may not be, you may be in a bit of a silo right now. You're going to all of a sudden be introduced to the rest of the business, and you're going to be expected to perform at a strategic level and a tactical level. It's going to be culture shock because most data scientists haven't been exposed to the strategy side of the world. It's also going to be culture shock for the rest of the organization because they don't have an AI strategy. And so they don't have any sort of connection between their job and the way that they're measured for success, the way that they are, sort of managed, those KPIs that they have don't really line up with some of the KPIs that you have. And it's going to be an uncomfortable transition trying to get all of these organizations to line up and to get your work to become that most valuable thing that you could be working on. So it was a great study, and I've got a link down in the description. Definitely check it out, read it through. It's not that long. It's about a 15-20 minute read. It's got some interesting gems. It's got a whole lot of cool data points that you can pull on and maybe incorporate into one of your slideshows when you're trying to get buy-in for a project. So read it, definitely go through it, and look for more opportunities like this where you can read something that a company, especially the bigger consulting companies, do this all the time, where they'll go out, they'll do a study, they'll survey a good number of senior decision makers, and they'll give you a little bit of insight into what they're thinking. And if you extrapolate a bit, you can think about, okay, so this is what they're thinking. This is what's on their mind. What does that mean for your role? It's going to help you prepare for things and put some of the business and strategy related concepts into a good context. So when events happen, you say, oh, okay, I have a better understanding of why, and you can respond better, and the products you build are going to end up being better. They're going to have a higher level of value. You're going to be able to work with the rest of the company better because you understand what's going through their head with respect to your job and what you produce and this big strategy thing that is coming flying at you.